You think you know about exploitation? Think again. What if I told you there's a type of abuse so insidious, it's hidden in plain sight far beyond what you imagine? This isn't just about sexual exploitation, it's a terrifying new layer, and it's happening right now. The same pattern existed 2,000 years ago in the beating heart of the Roman Empire, behind the marble columns and triumphal arches the world still admires. Step inside that world, past the grand Senate steps, past the clatter of iron sandals on stone, past the cold stare of bronze statues, and you find a system of human control so complex, so quietly engineered, that modern eyes rarely recognize its brutality for what it truly was. Rome's greatest cruelty wasn't the whip or the arena, it was the machinery of ownership. A system that treated certain human beings not as temporary victims, but as renewable jackpots, whose lives could be drained for wealth, status, obedience, labor, entertainment, or silence. Romans had a word for the enslaved, res, meaning a thing, a possession, a tool, a resource. And in the domus of the elite, where wealth dripped from every wall and political ambition simmered like a cauldron, this concept became a monstrous engine, one where the most valuable individuals were not the strongest or the most beautiful, but the most profitable, those who could be used again and again without breaking the system. Imagine a sprawling Roman villa carved into a hillside, its walls gleaming with frescoes, its gardens meticulously arranged like a living tapestry. Step inside the private chambers, not the public atrium meant to impress guests, but the inner sanctum where no citizen's eyes were meant to wander. There, far from the roar of the forum, lived a population of people stripped of identity, each catalogued in the mental ledger of their masters. A single enslaved person with the right mix of skills, obedience, intelligence, multilingual training, or the ability to gather whispers without being noticed, could be worth more than gold. They were moved like coins across rooms, traded between households, and positioned carefully to listen, overhear, observe. They carried messages, poured wine at quiet dinners, dressed magistrates, and handled documents that could topple reputations. They were the silent witnesses of Rome's most private sins. And for those in power, this wasn't exploitation for a moment, it was extraction. Repeated, continuous, calculated. A senator might lease out an enslaved scribe to another household for profit. A patrician woman might use a servant's loyalty as a bargaining chip in her own political maneuvers. A wealthy merchant might train an enslaved child into a financial asset, teaching them accounting so their labor could expand his empire. These individuals existed not as people in Roman eyes, but as vessels to be wrung dry of potential, intellectually, emotionally, physically, spiritually, until there was nothing left to take, and it didn't end with obedience. Some were pressured into confessing to crimes they never committed just to shield their masters. Some were used as emotional buffers, absorbing the rage, grief, paranoia, and secrets of their owners. Some were deliberately kept close to powerful figures so they could be manipulated into holding sensitive information their owners could weaponize. These people became Rome's invisible infrastructure, the secret scaffolding beneath the empire's glittering marble surface. They were the ones who knew which senator was poisoning his rivals, which wealthy couple hid debts behind false ledgers, which general betrayed allies in a drunken confession, which patrician sold grain on the black market during a famine. The enslaved heard everything, and because Rome denied them the right to testify in court unless tortured, they were considered the perfect vault for the empire's darkest truths, but the same system that silenced them also made them indispensable. Some became experts in negotiation, mediating disputes between elite households. Others became financial strategists or estate managers, handling fortunes worth more than the lifetime earnings of 100 free citizens. A few wielded influence so subtly that their masters depended on them more than they realized. Yet all of them, every one, lived under the constant threat of punishment, relocation, or sale. The jackpot wasn't just in what they could do, but in how endlessly they could be used while still being denied the right to exist as humans. And this is where the Roman system becomes truly terrifying. Rome normalized this exploitation so deeply that most citizens didn't even see it as cruelty. People were born into it, lived with it, died with it. Senators debated laws about property rights while ignoring the trembling hands pouring wine beside them. Wealthy matrons prided themselves on managing a perfectly efficient household, never acknowledging the cost carried in the eyes of the people who ran it. The empire marched across continents, Gaul, Britannia, Judea, Egypt, bringing back captives who would become new jackpots for Roman families hungry for more power or comfort. Even the gladiator schools operated this way, turning human bodies into predictable revenue streams. A strong fighter might belong to a lanista who trained him ruthlessly, not for glory but for profit. A single victory could raise his value. A single injury could ruin the investment. These men were paraded before crowds as symbols of bravery, but behind the scenes they were merely assets in a dangerous market, profitable only as long as they survived, and survival was never guaranteed. The Roman system was so intricately woven that even slaves who managed to gain trust or influence were trapped. Many who became invaluable to their masters were never freed. Their value was too high. Those who learned to read, calculate, manage estates, or navigate politics were rarely granted independence because freedom would mean losing a long-term investment. Rome's most exploited people weren't the ones subjected to immediate brutality. They were the ones treated as too important to let go. Their cage wasn't forged from iron but from usefulness. Their chains weren't visible. They were made of dependency, fear, and the constant reminder that their achievements belonged to someone else. In this sense, the most horrific abuse was invisible, the complete erasure of personal future, replaced by a life defined entirely by someone else's ambition. And if you think that's just ancient history, think again. The structure may have evolved, but the blueprint remains. Systems where human value is measured in output, obedience, silence, and profitability. Rome perfected it. The world just gave it new names.